All right, let's jump right in. Have you ever really stopped to think about what makes you, well, you? Is it all in your DNA, your life experiences, the culture you grew up in? For like ever, we've kind of put ourselves on this pedestal, right? Assuming there's this huge gap between us and the rest of the animal kingdom. But what if that gap isn't as wide as we think? Today, we're going to dig into the roots of our own behavior and ask what really makes us human by taking a good long look at our neighbors in the wild. And it all boils down to this one classic question: nature or nurture? Are our behaviors hardwired from birth, baked into our genes? Or are they totally shaped by our environment, by everything we go through? It's pretty much the ultimate debate about who we are.
And here's one way to put it. This is obviously a joke, but it kind of hits on the real dilemma, doesn't it? It feels like we're either a product of our genetics, our nature, or our upbringing, our nurture. But how do scientists actually get past the jokes and figure this stuff out? Let's check out a classic example.
To really get a handle on this whole debate, we're going to start with something you might not expect: birdsong. Yeah, it turns out it gives us this amazingly clear window into that really complex dance between instinct and experience.
First things first, let's get our terms straight. When we talk about the nurture side of the coin, we're usually talking about learning. And here's the official definition. Learning is a relatively permanent change in behavior as a result of experience. Now, the key words there are permanent and experience. This isn't just some knee-jerk reaction. It's a real, lasting change.
Okay, so meet our test subject, the chaffinch. These little birds have this really beautiful, complicated song. And the big question for scientists was, is that song just innate? Are they just born knowing it? Or is it something they have to learn? This is exactly what a researcher named William Thorpe wanted to figure out way back in the 1950s.
Thorpe's experiment was just brilliant in its simplicity. He raised young chaffinches in a few different setups. So if a young bird grew up with an adult male, a tutor, it sang a perfect, complex song. No surprise there. But a bird raised all by itself in isolation, it still sang, but the song was way, way simpler. And get this, if a bird was deafened really early, it couldn't sing a normal song at all, because it couldn't hear itself practice.
And this image just shows you the results perfectly. You don't need to be a music expert to see what's going on. On the left, you see this graph, a sonogram, of the tutored bird song. Look at all those squiggles and phrases, how complex it is. Now, look at the right. That is the isolated bird. It's flat, simple, repetitive. It's missing all that richness. It's basically a picture of what happens when you don't get a proper education.
So what's the verdict? The huge takeaway here is that it's not nature or nurture, it's nature and nurture working together. The isolated bird still knew how to sing something, which means it had a built-in genetic blueprint for a song. But to turn that basic blueprint into the full, beautiful song of its species, it absolutely needed to learn from a tutor and listen to it self-practice. Behavior is an interaction, always. Okay, so how does this whole bird thing apply to us? Now that we've got this idea that behavior is a mix of genes and learning, let's turn the camera back on ourselves. We have this whole list of things that we think make us completely unique in the animal kingdom. Let's take a look. I mean, we constantly point to stuff like this, our incredibly complex and diverse languages, as proof positive that we're in a league of our own. Our ability to talk about, abstract ideas and tell stories feels like a giant leap from anything else out there. And here's the full list, the stuff we claim a monopoly on. Things like real intelligence, complex language, culture, morality, even our capacity for extreme behaviors, like pure self-sacrifice or massive organized warfare. And of course, our ability to plan for the future, to delay gratification. This is the list of things we think makes us so special. But are we really so different? Let's put that checklist to the test. It's time for a little reality check, courtesy of the rest of the animal kingdom. We're going to go through some of those so-called uniquely human traits, one by one. All right, first up, intelligence and tool use. For the longest time, we literally defined ourselves as man the toolmaker. The whole idea was that our ability to make and use complicated tools was the thing that set us apart from everyone else. Well, say hello to the palm cockatoo. This bird is incredible. It doesn't just find a stick and use it, it actually manufactures a tool. It snaps off a branch, trims it down to the right size, and then uses it as a drumstick to bang out rhythmic beats. That is tool modification for a purpose that has nothing to do with immediate survival. It's about making music. That's some serious planning and intelligence right there.
Next up, the big one, complex language. We're pretty proud of our ability to combine meaningless sounds into words and words into basically infinite sentences. The secret sauce for that is something called syntax. But then, you've got the chestnut-crowned babbler. Researchers discovered that these birds take two different, meaningless sounds, think of them like the letters A and B, and combine them in different ways to make two totally different, meaningful calls. AB might mean, hey, let's fly, while BAB could mean, time to feed the chicks. That is a basic, fundamental building block of syntax, showing that the recipe for language isn't just a human invention.
What about teaching? And I don't just mean learning by watching. I mean active, intentional instruction of a novice by an expert. That feels very human, right? Something you do in a culture.
And yet you have meerkats. Adult meerkats literally teach their kids how to handle dangerous food, like scorpions. They'll start by bringing a pup a dead scorpion, then later one with its stinger removed, and finally a live one. The adult changes its own behavior just for the pupil, at a cost to itself. It's a perfect fit for the strict scientific definition of teaching. Okay, let's get into a really deep one, theory of mind. This is the ability to get that other beings have their own minds, their own beliefs and perspectives. It's about knowing what someone else is thinking or seeing.
For ages, this was thought to be the final fortress, the one thing that was absolutely 100% human. But experiments have shown that great apes, our closest living relatives, have key parts of this ability. They can figure out what another individual can and cannot see, and they change what they do based on that knowledge, like, say, only trying to steal food when they know the boss can't see them do it.
So after chipping away at that uniquely human checklist, where does that leave us? It kind of suggests we need a new way of thinking, not about a human toolkit and a separate animal toolkit, but about one shared evolutionary toolkit for behavior.
This quote really is the whole point of this entire conversation. Understanding the evolution of non-human animal behavior gives us a brilliant framework for understanding human behavior. They are not two different subjects. We can only really understand ourselves if we understand where we came from and see our place in this huge, amazing tapestry of life on Earth.
And that brings us to one last big idea to chew on. We've seen that the lines we like to draw in the sand between us and other animals, they're a lot blurrier than we thought. So many of our unique traits are actually shared, even if we do them on a bigger scale. Which leads to the big question. If we're all working with variations of the same basic behavioral toolkit, what is it that truly defines our humanity? That's something to think about.